Hey, welcome to the Dripping Stone Podcast, the podcast where two friends raise a glass and have a conversation. I'm Nick.
I'm Kyle.
Kyle, as we get started this week, we'd love to invite all of our listeners to grab a glass of something amazing and sip along with us.
Indeed. It's a call to arms.
Ooh.
Or call to hands.
Called to hand, to
Call to
glass,
mouth.
to lips, to stomach,
And eventually.
liver.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that strikes your fancy at this moment in time and wherever you are that you can have a great pour, we invite you to do it.
Yeah. Enjoy that refreshment with us.
Speaking of a call to arms, while you're, pouring your drink and getting everything ready and getting the episode queued up,
Right.
we'd love it if you support the podcast in one of a couple different ways.
What's that?
Well, the first one is just to tell someone about Dripping Stone.
Yeah.
Super easy. The second one would be to rate Dripping Stone wherever it is you find a great podcast like this one. And finally, Kyle,
Yes, sir.
you can support Dripping Stone through our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/DrippingStone.
All really easy options.
So now that we've got all that out of the way,
Yeah.
should we drink something?
Yeah. Well, no, absolutely we should.
Okay, what do you want to drink?
I've got a little bottle here. I've had it for a good while that we've been meaning to get onto the podcast.
Yeah.
Just hadn't done it.
Yeah.
But now we're going to do it.
When you say a good while, like I was thinking like you had it about a year.
Yeah, it's probably about right at a year,
Okay.
I would assume.
Yeah.
But somewhere in that realm.
Well, what is it?
It's the Glenglassaugh Sandend.
Ooh.
Yeah, this was one that I was at a liquor store that I enjoy frequenting. The shop owner was, chatting me up. We were having a good little Scotch discussion. And
Isn't that the best?
it really is.
Like,
yeah.
because I love, especially when the store owner knows more than just like what's selling. Like they actually know Scotch,
Right.
And like you can have a conversation not only about Scotch but also like, well, what's selling? What are you moving? That kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And he brought this one to my attention. I hadn't heard of it, but it was, I think, Whiskey Advocate's Whiskey of the Year for 2023.
Yep.
So at the point in time when I bought it, like that kind of had just happened.
Yeah.
And so he recommended it to me. It was a really good price, and I was like, wow, for that price, how could I not at least take this home to try it?
Yeah,
So,
especially if Whiskey Advocate's advocating for it.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, brought it home, and now we're going to have it on the podcast.
I'm excited to do it because so this is a Sandend.
Yep.
I've had the regular Glenglassaugh, which I think is a 12-year-old.
Gotcha.
And actually, I had that at a local establishment that, yeah, okay, good. I had that at a local establishment, and I think I texted you a picture at some point. I said, hey, is this what you have? And you said, no, I have the Sandend. That's what the 12-year-old.
Right.
And so, like, I don't think I've had this. I know I've had the 12, but I don't think I've tried this at all. I know you've had about half the bottle, but I don't
dare say that at some point,
you think
at some time we at least tried it.
Okay,
just to
I'll say
put a
this.
splash on a glass kind of a thing.
If that's the case, and that may well be true, I don't remember it at all.
Right.
But I remember
A lot of things happened on Thanksgiving.
that's correct.
Yeah.
I do remember though having a pour of the 12-year-old of the regular Glenglassaugh, and I remember it being really good. So I'm interested in this one.
When you were in Scotland,
Yeah.
how close were you to the Glenglassaugh?
Actually,
Distillery.
about half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, for whatever reason, like I know that we had this conversation, but like we did a lot of Speyside scotches, and it's in that region.
Right.
I think Glenglassaugh would like to call themselves a coastal Scotch.
Sure.
And that's at least how they market it. But it's definitely a Highland Scotch, and it's in that Speyside region. But it's the Glenglassaugh distillery is like you could probably hit a golf ball into the sea. It's that close.
Right.
But it's we just didn't make it out that far.
Right.
There's a lot of good stuff to try, and we tried a lot of good stuff.
There you go.
But we just didn't try that good stuff.
Going to hit you with some bottle words.
Do it.
This is inspired by the crescent beach of Sandend Bay.
Oh yeah.
Glenglassaugh Sandend is matured in bourbon, sherry, and manzanilla casks for luscious waves of flavor. Product of Scotland. Added to that by the website is the fact that Glenglassaugh Sandend brightens into waves of tropical sweetness infused with a crack of sea salt.
A crack of sea salt.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
You got sea salt in your crack?
Yeah. We'll clean it out for you.
Okay. Did you give me an ABV?
Nope. ABV is 50.5.
Ooh, so 101. Nice.
Yeah. Wild Glenglassaugh 101.
Let's get into it.
All right.
Stately.
Faster than I expected it to be.
Pour it up. got to get the glass noises in there.
Smooth.
You've done that before, haven't you?
Made that look epic. All right.
You know, I do love the Glenglassaugh bottle because it looks like a kind of in a way like an old timey medicine bottle, but it's got these like really nice like swirls at the top.
Yeah, kind of like waves.
Yeah. It's it reminds me of the coast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that color, that topper.
Yep.
That's the color of the Scottish coast.
Yeah, you can see the cork through the bottle.
Yeah, which
it's got
I
like this kind of like kind of beech wood, sandalwood, kind of vibe to it, and then just like the seafoam green.
Yeah, exactly.
Topper. They're definitely playing with those coastal vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I bought this bottle doing just a minute of research into the brand because at the point in time I hadn't heard of it, and remember reading that this was all brought about from a big rebranding that Glenglassaugh had done. Yeah,
so it was actually purchased in 2016 by Brown-Forman.
Okay.
Yeah, so Brown-Forman
by Jack Daniels.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Correct. So Brown-Forman, who owns Jack Daniels and a slew of other things, including Glendronach and Benriach, they bought the Glenglassaugh distillery, I think, from another small company, and then they just rebranded this not too terribly long ago. I feel like in 2020, 21, like it was a pretty recent rebrand.
Right. Yeah, and like part of that rebrand was the Sandend.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was just like a new expression to go along with all that new rebranding, new bottle shapes, new logo, I think, stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I had never heard of it prior to the 2023 Whiskey Advocate thing. So I wonder if it was one of those like this is a bottle that you can find primarily in Scotland.
Right.
Like that tends to be a thing, you know, that does happen, that we just don't get bottles over here.
Right.
Maybe that's the case. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just like sluggish sales.
Sure.
And it kind of had, disappeared into the swath of Scotch that you have to choose from. And it just hadn't, it didn't have one of those kind of big marquee brands. That, nothing really jumped out. So it was just part of that rebranded. They made this, and then it went out and won Whiskey of the Year. Which,
I have a bit of news.
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen this news, and this is also partly why we're doing this. They're actually closing the Glenglassaugh distillery.
Yeah. So, you told me this right before we started.
Yeah.
So, bizarre.
So Brown-Forman has chosen to mothball, and in the whiskey vernacular, the Scotch vernacular, mothballing a distillery is we're not selling it, but we're pausing production. We're closing things up. We're going to padlock that door and just let everything sit.
Right.
I'm interested in that because, first of all, Whiskey Advocate 2023, and this is since then become a fairly sought after Scotch.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's got a lot of praise from a lot of different places. So it seems odd that you would choose this to be the one place you're saying, let's see if we can tighten our belts there.
Yeah, which goes back to our conversation from last week in terms of the bourbon bubble busting.
Right.
Bursting the bourbon. And I think like that is something that I saw several weeks ago, where Brown-Forman basically said, like, we've got to tighten some things,
right?
Because they're worried about the whiskey market as a whole. And now we have this information of them tightening with, mothballing the distillery.
And ironically, a Scotch.
And so, like, Benriach, which we've done on the pod before, is about a half hour from Glenglassaugh. So they're not killing the brand.
Right.
But what they're going to do is they're going to share distilling duties with Benriach.
Right.
So I find that kind of interesting.
At their...
At the Benriach
facility?
Yeah, at the Benriach distillery, which actually happens pretty frequently. Like you have a lot of popular brands that are blended into other things.
Right.
So, or you have a popular brand that like they're making another brand that's just not as popular, or, that kind of thing.
Or even a situation of like, if you're revitalizing or redoing your distillery,
right.
For a time being, you can have your mash made at another location and then brought over and still aged on your property or whatever. But that kind of stuff happens, I think, pretty regularly.
Sure. But knowing how much I know about the small subtle changes in distillation time and in like the way that the stills look and like the way the stills function, like it is possible that this will change.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe Benriach has the exact same stills.
Right.
And like maybe nothing's different. So all we got to do is just pop the grain over there and we're good to go. And maybe that's the case. I don't know that. But there still is, I feel like, going to be some difference. You move, 30 minutes west and a bit inland, and that's probably going to change something.
I would certainly think so.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the comment I made to you, is that for as much emphasis is put on location and water source and grain type and all of those things, all those very minute details that are so important to the whiskey process, to just completely, say that you're just going to move it and change it and start making it somewhere else seems to kind of like take back some of that importance, some of that sacred, magic that you claim is part of your brand.
And you said something I didn't even think about when I read this headline yesterday. Most of these distilleries, they're employing like 15 people max.
Right.
I mean, like Talisker is famous for it's like 4 people distilling, and everybody else is basically like visitor center kind of thing.
Right.
And like a lot of distilleries are that. There aren't many people that work at these distilleries as a whole. So why wouldn't you do it the other way? Why wouldn't you take Benriach and move the Benriach production to Glenglassaugh? Because people are going to recognize Glenglassaugh as a brand now, at least here in the States, and they're probably going to want to go visit Glenglassaugh more. Like that's what I would think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's perhaps Benriach is I mean, we don't have the numbers in front of us. Maybe Benriach is the bigger dog in the fight. Maybe it's just the bigger,
or maybe
more notable brand over there or something.
Sure, maybe.
Who knows?
I don't, but
Not
I do
us.
know that we've got some whiskey to taste.
We do.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, color, what you got?
Pretty color. I mean, I think it's it's just when I think of Scotch, this is the color I think of.
It's golden. It's golden honey.
Yeah.
But it's like just slightly watered down golden honey.
Yeah. It's in that Chardonnay realm.
Oh yeah.
Color wise, it's definitely got some gold, some yellows on it, but it's not quite getting into that, orangey or brown area. It's just nice, crisp gold.
Slightly watered down apple juice.
There you go. Or like white grape juice.
Perfect. White grape juice.
On the website, they provide the color as summer gold.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Anyway, on the nose.
Man, that's pretty.
Yeah. I'm being overwhelmed by the branding. Like the seaside tropical nature is coming full forward to me.
I don't think you're being overwhelmed. I think there's definitely a tropical note. I mean, I know that Scotland is nowhere near tropical,
right?
But like, there's definitely a tropical note.
What did they say?
It's definitely floral.
It's bourbon, sherry, and manzanilla.
Okay, so manzanilla is going to be what's that? A Spanish fortified wine?
I mean, sounds legit.
So yeah, I don't think
it be like Portuguese or something.
It's probably
offended an entire.
I mean, how often do we offend an entire country?
At least twice an episode.
Yeah, I looked it up just for posterity.
Confirm.
Yeah, it's Spanish.
I'm getting pineapple, canned pineapple,
like that
like a
Dole
fruit cocktail.
Okay, that's where I was going.
Yeah,
like a Dole fruit cocktail.
Pulled that plastic wrapper off the top. Get that little fruit cocktail cup.
No. Like you do the whole can, that can. Yeah, and it all gloops out.
Yeah.
No, it's exactly what it reminds me of. It reminds me of fruit, like a tropical fruit cocktail, pineapple. There's always some peaches in there.
Yeah.
That weird cherry.
Yeah. Pink.
Yeah.
Cherry.
Why is that cherry pink?
Yeah, it's
what
sick.
flavor does that part? But it's also like the malt is very, very bright. And I feel like on the nose, there's a bit of an oily, viscous nature on the nose. Like it feels kind of heavy.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because normally I don't get that. Like that's not normally a nosing quality.
Yeah. I'm getting like a toasted vanilla.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
Creamy brulee.
Ooh.
Kind of a thing.
Okay. Shall we?
We shall.
Okay. Ooh. It is real nice.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, pretty's right. To me, first I get hit with a bit of proof. It's like it's popping.
Right.
But then like the malty nature just like takes over, and it's sweet, it's floral, it's got a great mouthfeel. It's got some body.
For sure.
And then as it washes over the tongue, then it just becomes really bright and floral.
Right.
And then it hits the back of the palate, and then you get like this salty, like it's like my mouth is watering now.
Oh, yeah,
like
for sure.
after I've had the drink.
Yep.
And you get this really like salty, a little bit of cracked black pepper, and then that proof comes back in and finishes the whole thing.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Sorry, I just described the whole thing.
But yeah, I mean, and I've got a strong presence of vanilla all the way through.
Ooh.
And then the oaky bitter at the end that just kind of takes you out to sea. Just delightful.
Takes you that, you know, that's perfect.
Yeah.
The oaky bitter takes you to sea.
Yeah, that's really, really nice.
And I think that proof is perfect. Like that to me is something that reminds me very much of the classic latte.
Right.
It's like here's a scotch, and we're gonna pop that proof just a bit to give you some more complexity, give you a little bit more here. That's really what sets it apart.
Yeah, that would be a fun bottle to like pair it with.
Oh yeah.
To see how do they communicate with each other. I wonder if that's almost like why they use the color that they use,
because it's
as like
pretty damn close.
A little bit of a nod.
Yeah.
To the latte. But yeah, that's just delightful.
What you still got the tasting notes up for them?
Yeah.
I'd love to know what they say.
On the nose, they say soft, buttery vanilla ice cream drenched in tropical fruit with chocolate and a touch of sea salt.
Okay.
I don't know that I pulled out any chocolate.
No chocolate, but I could definitely see the pineapple tidbits over ice cream.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
On the palate, they've got waves of salted caramel with an effervescent burst of pineapple, cherry, and grapefruit enlivened by the ocean shore.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even grapefruit's like, yeah, I get that.
Now that you say grapefruit.
Now you say it.
Yeah. And I think like something that we've talked with listeners about fairly often is like, okay, so this whole tasting thing, it's kind of BS, right? And in some ways, peel back the curtain a little bit. Yeah, but only at first. Because I think like when you start to taste things and you start to like figure out what your palate is getting, then you can start to parse out those notes. Why I like doing this ourselves and then reading someone else's, like, oh yeah, is because that just gives you more language that someone else is getting. Doesn't mean you're getting those things, but like someone else has said like, I get these notes, and now you have more language to kind of engage the drink.
Right. Yeah. There's kind of like more data points.
Right.
To give you a more specific accumulation.
Yeah.
Flavors
profile.
and stuff.
Profile. Exactly. Yeah. Like you just, I want to see that profile.
Yep.
And like, that's something that I think, at least I, in my conversations outside of the pod with people about whiskey, it's like, I don't think I expect anyone to get the same notes that I'm getting. And you and I often don't get the same notes.
For sure.
It's those notes that, oh, I am getting something like this. I mean, I think we just did it a little bit ago. Oh, I'm getting this. Oh, yeah. Now, okay, that is there.
Right.
Because sometimes I think your brain also has to kind of catch up to the idea of that note is within the whiskey.
Yeah. Or I'm getting that note, but I can't identify it. I'm not sure what that is.
Right.
It's something. And then you say it, and it's like, yeah, that's totally what that is. All the time.
Now, having had the Sandend and then thinking about the regular 12, Brown Foreman, what are you doing?
Yeah. It's an interesting call. Whiskey as a whole for Brown Foreman.
Uh-huh.
You got Jack Daniels.
Okay. Probably their best seller.
You got Woodford Reserve.
Oh, right.
Old Forester.
Okay.
Benriach, Slane Irish Whiskey.
Okay.
Cooper's Craft.
Okay.
Glenglassaugh and Glendronach.
Okay, yeah.
So in that as your whiskey portfolio.
Sure.
To be fair, I think you could cut Cooper's Craft.
Oh, yeah.
Just lop it off.
Sure.
I think again, I think this is all very interesting in relation to last week's episode of how things are shifting and changing. And so it is really interesting to see a big name like Brown Foreman make a big move like this to make a change. And again, not having the numbers in front of us to kind of see, what they're looking at on the outside looking in, it does look like an odd choice.
Lop off Cooper's Craft, sure. Are there going to be people that are like, man, they stopped making Cooper's Craft? There will be. I think there will be.
There's enough,
I do. But those people are going to be like, okay, well, I'll just go back to drinking Jack Daniels.
Right.
Like they're not going to be like, well, Cooper's Craft's gone, I'm not drinking whiskey anymore.
Yeah.
I highly doubt that's the case.
Like you had a bottle, right?
Yeah.
Cooper's Craft.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It's good.
Fine. Yeah.
If you're a Cooper's Craft drinker, and if you take that away, where do you end up? I I mean, I think there is like probably a really solid
You go to Woodford.
option of either Woodford or Jack
Right.
or Old Foe.
Right.
You know, like that just kind of seems like generally where you would land.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Whereas in the Scotch world, I think in some ways, especially with a Scotch that's won Whiskey Advocate of the Year,
Right.
It's
A bit more prestige.
yeah, like yeah.
And I feel like you could do something different of like, hey, here's an Old Forester Cooper's Craft Edition.
Right.
You know, kind of a thing, a special bottling of Woodford. You know, it's the Cooper's Craft.
The problem is that all the bourbon is the same stuff.
Right.
I mean, that's the problem.
But that being the thing, saying that is the case in bourbon, almost to me just makes it seem like, I mean, and granted, Cooper's Craft may just be a sticker.
Yeah, you're not
Like,
wrong.
that absolutely could be something that they're making at JD or at Woodford, and they're just putting that sticker on the bottle.
Sure. So it's just another brand.
Right.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's not, there's absolutely no difference. And lopping off Cooper's Craft actually doesn't accomplish anything.
Right.
Other than just, you know,
Saves on bottles.
bottles
Saves on
and labels. Like,
Yeah.
so maybe it is, there's no difference in this. Just again, we don't have the numbers.
Right,
we don't know the strategery behind all of it. So
It's interesting to me.
yeah, me too, for sure.
Yeah. Can I have a little bit more?
Of course.
You, sir, are a gentleman and a scholar.
I have done both of those things.
And because you are both a gentleman and a scholar, I'd like to ask you this question.
Sure.
What do you want to talk about this week?
Topic that I keep finding mentioned to me, advertised to me, whatever. I keep seeing it pop up here and there.
Algorithmically presented to you.
There it is.
Yeah.
Is this concept of our current generation being like this isolation generation.
Yeah.
How we are more often seeking isolation and kind of pushing back on this constant need to be public and socialize. And it's an interesting topic to me. I read an article in The Atlantic that was all about this concept, and the article itself starts with an example of the author going to a Mexican restaurant to have dinner. As they go in, it's absolute desolate. Like there's nobody else in there. Doesn't seem to be like a very good business model. They seem to be struggling. But as he pays more attention, he sees that like the kitchen is absolutely slammed. Like they're constantly moving stuff around, and like they're going full blast, full steam. And he realizes that he looks over at the bar, and the bar is just absolutely covered in to-go bags, like to-go orders, ready to be picked up. He comes to realize that that's the case, that constantly people are just coming in and out with, Uber Eats and different things to take these orders. And so that was kind of like the basis of the article, where they kind of start, and then they just talk about other things about how within our current society, houses are bigger. We spend more money on entertainment and creating a space at home that is just as good and a lot of times probably better than the experience that you're going to go out to receive, and how we're constantly trying to achieve this sense of isolated leisure. And I've seen this kind of pop up on so many different things recently, and it is just kind of an interesting concept to me right now. And I would say I'm 100% part of that crowd.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof. I would almost always rather stay at home and do my thing, read in my little quiet corner, or watch the media that I want to watch. I think there's just this endless opportunity of entertainment and leisure that we're constantly chasing and trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I don't see how we almost have any other viable option, especially with how at the same time everything is presented to us as us versus them kind of mentality.
Sure.
And how it's almost like you can't socialize with people who aren't like-minded like you, and so you start to kind of distrust everybody else because there's no way you're one of them, aren't you?
Yeah.
Kind of, mindset.
Yeah, like you saying this, like I'm just like kind of going through the Rolodex of like just scenario after scenario of where like, oh yeah, and that's true, and this is true, and this is true. And I think what I'm struck by is, as someone who, just your first example of the author going to a Mexican restaurant, as someone who is, I hate the term foodie. I don't like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I don't like it, but just like someone who enjoys a good restaurant, who enjoys exploring a
culinary event,
right?
Culinary cabaret.
Oh,
from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. sounds sexy.
Yeah. Well, did you see those dishes in that?
Woo! Would you say dishes? Yes, I did. just checking. As someone who does that fairly regularly in terms of like goes to restaurants and likes that experience, I recognize like if I order the same food and it's brought to me half hour later, it's not going to be as good.
Oh, surely not.
Like, I mean,
there's
like,
no chance.
I mean, you went to Pizza Hut as a kid, right? Like, actually went to a Pizza Hut. Pizza's great.
Yep.
When it's delivered 5 seconds out of the oven. You know, you're waiting a half hour. It's still good, but it's a different kind of good at that point. Like, it's not the same.
Yeah.
You ever gotten like fries on like takeout order? And you get the fries and they're like
awful. They're almost like unedible.
Fries are never like, how often are fries good like day after takeout fries? No,
I will not.
No, like terrible.
There's no need.
No, but with the advent of the air fryer, you just pop those takeout fries in the air fryer,
and they're incredible again.
Exactly.
And I would actually say like my preferred method of eating Pizza Hut is actually the next day
chucking it in the air fryer.
Air fryer.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Like
game changer.
Yeah, it's incredible.
You're not right.
Nobody out pizzas the
Hut. I know from experience. But like, you know, you go to a restaurant and so much of that is, at least in the food experience, is getting the food when it's supposed to be given to you in a certain amount of time and making sure that like this is presented in a particular way.
Right.
In some ways, I'm just sad for people who don't want that or want to be home more, because you miss out on the rich experience that is. I guess what you gain on the other side is like, I don't have to leave my house.
Yeah. I mean, I think to me, like the gist of it is I just want dinner tonight.
Sure.
I'm not looking for an experience.
Okay.
I'm not looking for ambiance.
Right.
I'm just, I like their food.
I need vittles.
Yeah. I like that food. I want some of that. I'm just going to grab some on the way home and hurry up and get in my comfy chilling clothes and gonna put on whatever I've been watching recently, and I just want to escape. And
I love that. Like I do the same. But then I'm not. Then I don't think in some ways you actually do enjoy that food. You enjoy I'm eating a version of this food at home, and I would rather enjoy this at home.
Yeah, I think you're giving too much credit to the dining establishment, because like you wouldn't do that for a Michelin star restaurant.
No,
that's not the case. I think kind of what we're talking about here is more like Chili's,
sure,
Applebee's,
right? To me, then that actually stands even more true, because that food's going to be exponentially more shitty when you get home.
I don't disagree, but like I'm also not going to be in tears when my whatever I got,
your triple dipper,
whatever it is, when I get home, it's like it's not as good as it could have been, but it's also like
it equals out because I'm at home in my PJs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that point.
Yeah.
I do.
Like certainly, it's not going to be somewhere where you're looking at $50 entrees. I don't think that's the case. I don't think very many people are going through there and getting takeout,
right,
and wanting to rush home and experience that food.
Okay.
I think it's more. I mean, I don't mean it in a degrading way, but like Mexican food, it works better.
Yeah.
It has a longer shelf life.
Unless it's nachos.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how you like your nachos.
You
I don't mind a soggy.
You don't mind a soggy nacho?
No, I like to have some crispy ones also, but like I kind of enjoy a nice kind of a gloopy mess at the bottom.
Okay.
But
Not me, man.
Who's grabbing nachos to take home? It's like big, huge, loaded nachos. It's the same thing with the fries. Like that's that's a bad call.
You know that's not. Yeah. That's no bueno.
Like you got 5 minutes, my guy, to take care of business.
Like by the time that leaves the kitchen to the table,
timer's set.
Correct.
It's time to go.
You gotta be there when that hits that bag.
If you're taking that home, you're eating them on the way home.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of this like isolation and the article that you read, did it come at it from a level of like this isolation is a positive, a negative, a neutral? Like how did it approach it? Because to me, and the reason why I asked this, sorry to qualify so much, but the reason why I asked this is because I just see this as this is the root of a lot of our current problems that we're experiencing.
Yeah, so it frames it in somewhere like in neutral, leaning, negative light because of that. I think they're showing it as a negative on society, just because like we are becoming more isolated and less compassionate, maybe less empathetic to our neighbors, because they bring up a bunch of examples of things where in the past, because this structure was put in place that encouraged social gathering, like they bring up statistics about having your neighbors come over and dine, and having a dinner party, how the numbers on that are like extremely
way
low.
down,
and it was a constant decline up until like I want to say like the mid to late 90s, and then there was just a huge drop off, and it just started tanking. And I think, you know, so much of that, like you just look at like home entertainment systems, like these are things that these are words that didn't exist in the 70s, 60s, like that just wasn't a thing that you thought about, and it's just heightened now.
Yeah. I read an article also from the Atlantic about like the argument was Americans.
We're homers for the Atlantic.
Oh yeah, we do like the
We're big
Atlantic.
homers.
Yeah. And now that we know that is an appropriate thing to say,
Not just saying it, assuming it's the right thing to say.
Like it's fine to say.
Affirmed. Yes,
I mean, I'm sure
okay
there's sorry listener that there's one or two of you that like it's not, and I apologize. But ultimately, for the majority of listening,
no, I'm an Aristotle fan. Fuck Homer.
That's a deep joke. I found that funny. I appreciated that. But they were the conceit of that article is Americans need to party more, and not like, you know, going to raves and, you know, doing a bunch of illicit things, but like
hopping over to Gatsby's.
Correct. No, Americans need to party more, because I think we actually talked about this a little bit. The like unsexy part about being an adult is making times to spend time with friends and like scheduling it.
Right.
And like as unsexy as that is, because you want to think like, oh man, I just texted, you know, my friend and like, hey, what are you doing? Like, let's get together right now. That happens very rarely.
Right.
And so like scheduling these things so that you are not isolated, and that Americans need to spend more time, and this so is American centric in this case, but Americans need to spend more time with other people because we are so isolated.
Right.
It's so easy to fall into those traps of my Netflix algorithm's catered to me.
Right.
And it's telling me all the things I want.
Right.
And my Instagram is catered to me. And it's showing me all the things I like. So I don't need to go experience everything else. But this is also, and I want to know if the article talks about that, I think this is also what leads to that constant like base level kind of state of anxiety and dread that a lot of us experience. And it's because we are so isolated.
Yeah. I mean, I think leaning into that, like a part of the article talked about how, you know, or at least, you know, I would assume this was probably just the author's opinion on it and their take of like how if you were involved in some sort of either like a community group,
like a social club kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so by being involved in that, and you get to know your neighbors a little bit better, understand them a little more, you know, y'all were able to have a conversation and genuinely kind of bond over a general interest that the two of you might have, so that later on at a PTA meeting, when that person stands up and says something that you're completely opposed to, instead of just like writing them off or being combative to them, you have a different respect for them because like y'all had that bonding moment, and like you see them more as a human being now than just an enemy or, you know, a rival to correct and immediately put down.
Yeah.
And how that just, you know, it's going to encourage more kumbaya.
Dude, I see. Oh, wow. Like I never thought about it that way. Like I see this on a daily.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, people that I'm close with, even job wise, like those who have a wider social network and those who have a far more limited social network, I see a predilection in those with a more limited social network to be more combative, to be more, the thoughts that I have are the thoughts, are the correct thoughts, right? Versus an understanding of not even necessarily middle ground, but like I am aware of where you're coming from, and that there could be some merits there.
Or I care where you're coming from.
Or at the very least, I don't care where you're coming from, but I do care about you.
Right.
You know, I think your opinion is wrong, but I still like you.
Right.
Wow. I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
I think that there's also probably a correlation with regard to things like with going to the Great American Beer Fest. And I learned from Sam Caglione from Dogfish Head, and then Jim from Sam Adams about like their big push was, and this was 2 years ago, to get more people back into establishments.
Right.
Because people just aren't going to places anymore.
Right.
And so like for them, their kind of push was in some ways like the Irish kind of pub culture of, it's not so much of getting you to drink. That's not our, like, yes, our profits are based in that. We get that.
Right.
But like in some ways,
it's the social benefits
that's what it is
of the experience.
Yeah. I mean, I was having a conversation with a friend about like the decline of the American church. The church was such a central social structure. That's where you had a lot of people meeting,
especially one that was like, it's like based in a version of morality.
Exactly.
So like there's like a automatic built-in, we're all watching each other, so like be on your best behavior kind of a thing.
Yeah. And in some ways that kind of, I think you're right, that kind of
self-policing
exactly
thing.
And now without that, and I'm not saying again it's just church, but without the social clubs, without the meetings, without things of that nature, you don't have that. I like what you said, self-policing.
Yeah.
It's me against everybody else, and it's the echo chamber that I'm in the social media and in, internet spaces and that kind of thing, that gives me the permission to say these things.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just that thing of it's the benefits, it's the positives, it's the negatives. We are complex beings.
We are.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question?
One
as
more.
we wrap this up?
Just one more.
Okay. Because our glasses are empty.
Yep.
Our Glenglassaugh glasses.
Yep.
For you, is there any sort of remedy for this isolation, the constant, I would say the move toward even more isolation?
My personal take on it is no, because it's what we all want. I don't think there's anybody that's aggressively looking for more interaction. I think it's more so we're searching for leisure.
Interesting.
I don't think anybody wants, you know what? 6 days a week would be better. Maybe I should work 6 days a week.
Sure.
Who doesn't look for their off days? Who wouldn't rather have 4 days off than 2 days off? Like, and everybody's trying to achieve that. Like, that's the point of everything, isn't it? The point of everything is I need to work so I can make more money, so I can have more things, and I can be happier. And that happiness is generated by this thing. It's bleak, but I think it's just life. I mean, does the squirrel go out and collect all of these bits of food, in an attempt to meet other people and meet other squirrels and socialize with other squirrels, or is it's doing that as a sense of need of security and safety and leisure? If I can get a bunch, well, I don't know if a squirrel actually. There's no leisure there. They're just gonna keep grabbing those nuts. But I think it's just life in general is attempting to always provide the most comfort and ease,
sure,
and relaxation, and all of these things will just make the most amount of happiness.
Okay.
Possible.
But I'm going to posit this. Okay. First of all, I'd like to think we are a bit more complex than a squirrel seeking bits of food.
For sure. I'll grant you that.
Okay. Thank you. I think though, I don't disagree with like, there is this like accumulation of comfort and accumulation of like, I just want to be happy. But I'm going to say that as we recognize more and more and more the thing that we thought was making us happy, this isolation from people, this the constant being entertained, that's the thing that's making us fat, making us sick, making us depressed, making us anxious. As we figure that out more and more, I think you're going to see a reversal of that. I think that unfortunately there's going to have to be some sort of cataclysmic thing that happens to really push that forward. But I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see people go like, you know what? I've watched all the things. I've seen the stuff. I've sat in the PJs for so long. And I just miss friends. I miss people because we are, I think, ultimately a social creature. That's how we've existed for millions of years. And in obviously different iterations of the human species. And I think that to thrust us into something so quickly within the last 100 years, I don't think our brains are prepared for that. And I think that that's what's causing so much of just the general vitriol. Maybe it's a bit of the humanist in me, but I think that humanity will go, that's what's wrong with us. I think we're playing
interaction.
Well, is the lack of interaction. I think in some ways we're playing like a role reversal. Usually I'm the doom and gloom guy.
I think you're leaving out AI.
I'm trying my best. Why'd you call me on it? I was doing my best, man.
Because AI is going to be there to be your buddy. And they're going to talk to you.
I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk anymore. Let's just end this.
And
I'm done.
You're leaving out that critical.
No, I'm done.
thing.
I don't want to do it anymore.
Because as soon as that's there, I think it's naive to think that everybody's not going to choose that. Give me that safety. Give me that control. We're right there, man.
I don't
We're
like
there,
the
and
things that you're saying.
We're so close
While
to that
I
already.
don't disagree with
that's
you.
part of what's in that article. It was like a huge incline in these artificial companions.
This is
You've seen Her.
yeah.
It's that. It's Blade Runner.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ryan Reynolds has got
Joy.
Not Ryan Reynolds.
No, Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling's got
One of the Ryans.
Ana de
Ryan
Armas. Like, who
Seacrest.
wouldn't? If you could have Ana de Armas just like and like, hey, and she'll like talk to you and like flirt with you and encourage you and tell you all these great things. Like,
Yeah, but then you look at Ryan Gosling's face and he is so sad. Throughout that entire movie, he is so sad.
that's a movie,
Which mirrors,
which is like
Perspective.
our best hopes for what that interaction would actually be.
and that's my point.
And I don't think
That's
there's
my point.
any chance.
That's my point.
Like, look at us. We are pining for that stuff. We are so ready for that stuff.
Oh, I don't like the things that you're saying.
We're going full force at that. There's no way that at any point in time we're ever going to check the brakes just to be like, is this right? Hell no. Like, nobody will.
Can I tell you
Everybody
something?
will just like, let's just keep going. Just give me more.
As your friend, I hope that you are wrong. I suspect that you're right, but I so hope you're wrong.
I think you will have to be in such a high place
Mm-hmm.
of power to even see it. It'll just be so intoxicating
Yeah.
to not want it.
And as long as you keep the masses stupid, man, as long as you keep them dumb.
But now you're to the point, though, of if you do accept it, and there is this like perfect scenario
Yeah.
that you are genuinely happy,
What does it matter?
what does it matter? Why would you ever take yourself? It's the Matrix. It's ignorance is bliss. It's the put me back in.
Yeah.
Because that was I liked that. This shit out here where I'm eating snot soup and wearing, rags.
Yeah.
And I don't ever get
done.
to see the sun. This sucks. Jack me back in, dude. Make me somebody happy. Make me somebody famous. Make me a movie star.
Even though
Okay.
I'm isolated from everything else.
But I have all these
I have all
generated interactions and friends and family. My kids love me. Like, I've got this like simulated reality
that. Yeah.
and I'm happy there.
Plug
Why
you
do
in.
I care? What's the difference between I have reality happiness
Yeah.
and generated happiness? Is this not all just generated happiness? This understanding of, reality. It went really different. we went really hard there.
Yeah, we did.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I
just think that's like I think we're sprinting for that as a society.
Well, I was happy. And then I was happy when I had the Glenglassaugh, and then I was less happy when I found out Glenglassaugh was mothballing, and then I was happy like we were talking about like some things that are on my mind, and now I'm less happy now. This has been a roller coaster of an episode, Kyle.
I'm not as pessimistic about it as you, I guess.
Yeah,
Doesn't seem like it.
Well,
I mean, to me,
that's
it's just
I was optimistic. I was like, no, we're going to do the thing. And then you talk about jacking yourself into the Matrix, and like you get the things that you're saying are probably correct, and I want you to be wrong. I'm just going to end with that. Can we let's stop this episode?
okay. Yeah. Yep. Sorry to bring you down, man.
No, that's okay. I'm still I'm hopeful. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I like your
hopeful.
optimism.
Thank you. I appreciate
sure.
that. It doesn't happen very often, but in this case, I want to be optimistic.
I mean, it's just, humanity's disappointed me so many times.
Sure.
And so I don't see this one being the the one where they're like, we're going to do the right thing.
Yeah. More often than
see
not, I'm that's where I am, and I'm choosing to try and be hopeful.
Yeah.
In this case.
Yeah, we can't both be absolute downers.
No.
One of us has to stand tall.
Yeah, so I'm standing tall.
And you're doing it.
I've got my boots on, and I'm standing tall.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, we'd love to know what do you think about the Glenglassaugh?
Yeah. What other expressions have you had from Glenglassaugh, and why do you love them?
Oh yeah, and how do you feel about them mothballing the distillery and moving things over to Benriach?
Yeah. I mean, it feels like an inevitable thing, but here we are.
Progress. Like we've already said, it's a tough train to stop.
Yeah.
We'd also love to know, what do you think about this idea of the isolation generation?
Yeah.
Are you more in line with my hesitant optimism, or Kyle's like, we're going down this track and that's where we're headed? Quick.
Agreed. Let us know.
And if you get a chance, pop on over and subscribe to The Atlantic, because there's some interesting things going on there.
Yeah. Great articles.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
for sure. Well, you can get in touch with us through email. It's drepandstone@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us through social media.
It's always one word, social media, DREP and Stone. One word. Type it in. Search it. Find it. Like it.
Be amazed.
Do the thing.
We already told you how to support the podcast. Go back to the top of the episode and check that one out. And
Rinse and repeat.
Indeed. Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
May your glass overflow.
And your ass never show. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.